up, we have Gemini Sports Analytics.
Good morning. I'm Jake, and this is Gemini Sports. Data-driven decision-making is too difficult. Professional and collegiate sports teams around the world have been talking for 20 years about the explosion of third-party data available to them. And they've done a great job hiring staff to deal with that. But that's just one step. The people who run sports teams are frustrated. They're not seeing a return on their investments, and the key decision makers are not able to touch the data themselves. What this results in is teams are looking at the data that they have and finding what interesting things they can do with it, rather than taking a top-down approach that starts with the key outcomes and making the data work for them. We know that every team wants to find the best players for the best value, develop them to their maximum potential, optimize for each opponent as healthy as possible. But this requires people, processes, and technology to work together. I get a headache when I look at this slide. This is what it takes to build a mature data organization. Starting with third-party data that has to be architected and talking to each other, teams, especially with the optical tracking data that they're now dealing with, require sophisticated cloud environments. That they have to bring in specialized predictive modeling skill sets, even before bringing the data to the end user in a format that works for them. Teams don't have time to do this because they're focused on winning this Sunday. The idea of automating away the most tedious parts of data infrastructure is not new or revolutionary. Lockheed Martin doesn't want to be a data company. Tesla has plenty of money and engineering talent to build everything on that previous slide themselves, but they choose to buy pieces off the shelf to complement what they build internally. There are a lot of smart algorithms and professional services out there that teams can hire out, and there are big box data companies that teams can outsource to. But we are the first company to provide tooling to subject matter experts at sports teams to do their own job better. We do this by providing a very easy-to-use application that starts with all of your data in one place. Any stakeholder at a team, whether a scout, high-performance director, assistant general manager, or analyst, can go into our application and see all of their third-party data updated and ready to go. They can ask powerful questions very quickly by leveraging something called automated machine learning, which means instead of spending days or even weeks fine-tuning an algorithm in a specialized manner, you can pull dozens of models from the cloud and have them in minutes in an accurate way that does not sacrifice explainability. Once a prediction has been made, users can ask what-if type scenarios, such as, what if this free agent pitcher pitched 50 fewer innings? Would they be cheaper? Now, as a young company, we're constantly putting out new capabilities, and I can't quite share much about what's next, but for those who have played around with generative AI technologies, we're soon going to allow our users to talk to their data. We focus a lot at Gemini on meeting people where they are. So for engineers who like to stay in R and Python, but still leverage our capabilities, they can do so. While scouts and coaches can view their day-to-day workflows easily implemented with what we do. I came up with the idea for this business when I was working for the #1 rugby team in the world. I was doing my doctorate in biomechanics, preparing the team for the 2016 Olympic Games. I had to learn MATLAB and Python, and I was really bad at it, so I knew someone had to make a solution. Our staff come from the best sporting organizations in the world, as well as industry-leading technology companies. With 9 sports team owners invested in us, this is truly a solution from within the industry. In our mission to help teams do more with less faster, we enable non-technical decision makers to become self-sufficient while empowering engineers to drive more strategic value. Ultimately, we help sports teams make their most important and expensive decisions easier, faster, and with greater conviction. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing all that with us. Obviously, thinking through the challenges of standing up an organization with this type of tooling can be very powerful. How do you think about getting someone from the beginning of the process to actually using it? And specifically, who in these organizations are you really selling to?
Yeah, it's a great question. You were a lacrosse player, right? I was excited for your question. You know, I was on the practitioner side for a decade, and so I know how low the bar, if I could say, customer success is in sports technology. So like any software company, when we're young, there's a lot of humans in the loop involved with onboarding a team. So we spend time on site getting hands-on keyboards. So we think about builders and consumers. Engineers have to build things faster, and consumers have to have what's in front of them more easily. So ultimately, it's about finding where a team is and what's important to them, and then how they want to leverage this.
So that sounds like a lot of custom work to get them up and running. So I guess that begs the question, how do you price this? And then how long does it usually take to do an implementation?
That's a good question. We focus on what we've been calling internally alpha customers, so ones who are moving in a great direction, who have the staff that they need and the data that they need already purchased, and they know that they need to go further faster. So we try not to do any custom work, but focus more on the user experience and allowing different users across an organization to understand whether they're going to go code first, work in our user experience, or somewhere else that's just an output of our application. I would say we generally treat implementation as a 90-day process. So if you think about like a RACI framework with responsible, accountable, consultative, and informed, we start being the ones responsible, and then by month 3, they're handling it themselves.
So great presentation, thank you. I think I understand the UI, UX, and the visualization component of it. I think that is very important. I mean, even Tableau, I feel like, has become antiquated in the last 5 years. With regard to the modeling underneath, is that something that you provide as well, or is that provided by the teams?
Yeah, it's provided here. So the automated machine learning engine that we're built on top of, actually the 3 tech platforms that we're built on top of are worth a combined $100 billion, and it would cost $500,000 for a team just to buy those themselves and then customize it for their needs. So there's machine learning capabilities in our platform that teams generally don't have access to. What we find is that even the most sophisticated organizations might have one member of staff that can actually build predictive models as part of their core skill set. So allowing more BI analyst types to do machine learning is a huge value add.
And then teams are obviously looking for an edge. They want a competitive advantage. They want their own secret sauce. So if somebody wants to implement their own part of it, do they work with you directly on that? Do they put it in themselves? How does that work?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, you know, we get this question a lot. What's the competitive advantage if every team has this? And I think, like GPS, like force plates, it's a disadvantage if you don't have the technology, and the advantage comes from using it best. So we really feel that teams are the subject matter experts. They know how to ask the right questions and get the answers that they need and use them to great effect. And we're just providing the tooling. So if a team wants to do feature engineering on how they view goal value added, they do that within our app by combining different data sets and different columns. We're just allowing more people to do that.
So maybe it's almost the third time the same question being asked, actually, right? So who actually buys this product within the organization? Like, are you an existing budget line, or are you a new budget line? Who actually signs that check to you?
Yeah, the general manager is the economic buyer. And with any piece of sports technology that's new on the market, the budget doesn't exist because they didn't know about the product yet, which is why it's so helpful that we have team owners on our cap table. So what we find generally is the economic buyer is the general manager. They know that they're not getting enough from what they've invested in, so they want something to help them. They bring it down to the analytics department and say, can this help you do your job? And they hopefully say yes. And then more people around the organization say, oh, cool, I know how to use Excel or write SQL code or use video algorithms. I could learn how to use this.
And what is the pricing here? So say from a kind of an initial implementation, and then it sounds like to retain the competitive advantage, you actually have to have some customized work over time for each individual team. So how do you think about kind of, when you're fully deployed within one organization, what is kind of the annual revenue or some kind of measurement of revenue from one organization?
Yeah, we're in the low six figures. So we try and sell basically between a quarter and a tenth of what it would cost year on year to build this internally. And we don't actually do really any custom work unless it's built in as a service package in a way that subsidizes our R&D. But we work as what we would call thought partners to the team to build that out themselves.
And then, if I understood you correctly, you're running on top of 3 existing kind of data analytics or data aggregation platforms, right? So when you are successful and you're deployed across all the major leagues, every single team has you, right? And you are now the thing you have to retain, to be, whatever you said, if you don't have it, you're not competitive, right? And maybe some custom work on top of it, even though you don't do custom work, but you will. Who buys you? Like, who is actually acquire your business if you're successful?
Very important question. I would say one of those 3. So it could be Snowflake, Databricks, or DataRobot. We do some work with McKinsey. They have startup programs. They love to acquire vertical SaaS companies. And of course, private equity is gobbling up all sorts of companies in this space.
Based on just the UI UX and the visualization component of it, is there an opportunity to expand this beyond the team performance side and onto the business side as well?
Absolutely. For now, we're just sticking with what we know best. I was a practitioner on that side for a decade, so I think ticketing, fan engagement, all of those pieces could come next, but we're starting here.
When you think about rolling out and getting adoption, you're going after a very narrow market. How do you think about the early sales, and at what point do you think you've rounded the bend and you've hit success?
I think about that a lot. You know, this is a very small industry. Everything is about network effect. My investors had to push me just to hire my first marketing person because I know it's all about word of mouth. So it's all about customer success. It's all about delivery. We came straight here from the NFL Combine, and we've had our first NFL customer for about 7 or 8 months. Of course, I was very nervous. What are they going to tell everyone else? We made a point of not mentioning it because young sports tech companies often don't, really read the room, and they really want everyone to know about it. So we were quiet, and every team we talked to knew about that. They knew about that relationship. So it's about really over-delivering, and you're right, that doesn't scale early on, but it's important. And then people leave teams, they go somewhere else, and they bring your technology with them. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Gemini Sports. Up next, we have Green Gear and Scrap.